Amazon's making it more challenging for brand new sellers to get started. Low inventory level fees, the placement fees, the product restrictions.
Here we did about 6.8 million in gross profit from this business.
It's created opportunity for people who know how to navigate these changes properly.
100%. The first thing we did was always tell our community, before you purchase something, it's just look at the velocity and reorder. Click a couple buttons.
And you can figure out how much money you're going to make immediately.
Right. No one's posting that on YouTube.
Nobody's talking about it. Only people like me and you know how to optimize that process.
Yeah, it's cool to talk a good game until shit hits the fan. Then you know who really understands the business and who's just flaunting something they don't have.
Yeah. So it was an interesting year for Amazon sellers.
Yes.
We've dealt with a lot of struggles.
Yep.
And Amazon's making it more challenging for brand new sellers to get started. Not impossible.
No.
Definitely not impossible.
Of course not.
You know, we have hundreds of sellers who just started in the past couple months in our community who are already breaking milestones, hitting their first 20, 30, 40K in monthly sales. So it's still possible, just harder.
It is, and it's interesting you say that, because as soon as you said that, it made me think back to like when we started. It was less challenging. Back then, you could almost start as a hobbyist.
Yeah.
Somebody that just wanted to try it out and go, right? When it was the retail arbitrage and flipping a couple products here and there. But now you have to have a legitimate business, a foundation, and understand the structure from the beginning. And that's what I love about our community, because even with the challenges that there are for them, we provide them insight, and then full circle, some of those challenges that we struggled with, we got answers from our own community members.
Yep. One hand wash the other, both wash the face, man. It's been an amazing experience. And despite all the struggles, right, we've also seen a lot of businesses see a lot of growth in 2024.
Yeah. I mean, the growth is still there, and it's not impossible. It's just that you have to know what you're doing. You can't just throw things at a wall and expect it to stick anymore.
Yeah. How about John G., so one of our Inner Circle members? I mean, we were just talking to him last night. At the beginning of 2024, he was maybe doing 100 grand a month.
Yes.
And now he's doing $1 million a month.
They just
in 12 months, in the same year that we're talking about.
And that's a perfect example of transitioning to that hybrid model. Somebody who took wholesale, and then we showed him how to level up in wholesale, and now that he's leveled up there, he's got this hybrid model working with brand partnerships, which, matter of fact, we should probably talk about that later on.
100% we got to talk about brand
that's going to be
partnership.
huge for 2025.
Yeah, we definitely got to talk about
But before we do that, I want to stick on this topic, because now you brought up the challenges in 2024, and I'm just wondering, I know they kind of align, but I want to see what sticks out for you. Like, what do you think were some of the biggest challenges for ourselves and our community members and just the industry in whole in 2024?
Yeah, so some of those challenges that really are at the forefront of my mind when I'm thinking about the struggles that not only us but other sellers experience would be the low inventory level fee. You know, an additional small percentage added to every order for items that you're selling that have less than 28 days or 14 days or 7 days. Yeah. So it's an additional fee that you now had to adjust your minimum buying requirements to account for, and you had to kind of bake it into your buying process to remain profitable.
Or like we showed some of our community members, you could also pivot. You could pivot and purchase more and build out that strategy. Yeah. So if you're purchasing more 45, 60 days worth, you can reduce having that fee or completely remove that fee, but you have to take into account now that it's going to hinder your cash flow, because you're going to be able to purchase less of different products since you're purchasing more of the same. So it was, and even for us, sometimes it's not like a one method fits all scenarios. Sometimes we'll get hit with those fees because we don't want to over purchase and possibly risk something happening on that listing. While other times it's a no-brainer because we've been selling it for quite some time. So why not purchase 60 to 90 days and ensure we're not getting those additional low inventory level fees?
So like a good rule of thumb would be, if you have the historical data on those products you're selling, right, and you have the cash flow to go a little more aggressive, then you probably should.
So definitely the little fees, otherwise known as the low inventory level fees that occurred at the beginning of the year, were a huge transition. And I remember us talking about that with our Inner Circle members 90 days prior.
Yeah, it was December 2023. We had our Inner Circle monthly call, and not only were we talking about it, we were strategizing and sharing some of the things we just touched on now on how to incorporate them and still remain profitable.
Do you remember those calls earlier this year with our e-sellers, RI members as well, on the Monday calls, breaking down the frame of the different inbound placement fees and the low inventory level fees and the impacts and different strategies that they could implement? I mean, just going through that graph with you helped us build out our strategy for our own business.
Yeah. And you just touched on something which would be the next thing that was a struggle in 2024, which was the placement fees.
The inbound placement, yeah, man.
You know, now Amazon, you just can't ship anything anyhow, any way you want. They required you to select one of three options, you know, minimal, partial, or optimized.
Yeah.
And each option has a different fee structure and different complications with getting the inventory to Amazon.
Yeah. For minimal, it was you would get one shipment, but it would have the highest inbound placement fee.
Yeah.
For partial, you would get 2 or 3 shipments, and it'd have like a middle tier placement fee. And then for optimal, you would have 5 or more shipments that you had to split all your products and send to different fulfillment centers, but you would have no inbound placement fee. And people were right away jumping on the optimal because like, oh, no inbound placement fee. But when we were running through the graphs, we were like, wait, there's carrier fees associated with that. There's freight costs or SPD costs because now you're sending products to 5, 6 different locations across the country.
Which can
That's
get
substantial.
costly.
And how about the labor?
Oh man, now you got to have separate shipments in your warehouse and staff to organize them and make sure all the boxes are on the right pallets or all the products are in the right boxes. So they're going to the correct destinations, which added labor to the process.
Labor and time. And it's similar to the low inventory level fees where it's not like one product, one shipment fits all. Sometimes it makes sense to send out minimal because you got to get the product out. You got to get it out. It's a seasonal item, so I just want to get it to one location. I'll pay that fee, and maybe it's a product where it has a higher margin, so it's okay to take that fee. While other times it's like, dude, that fee is going to eat up most of my margin, so I'm going to have to split it up and do the optimized.
And so if you're at a place and you're watching this now and you're like, hey, well, what's best for me? Should I do minimal? Should I do partial? Should I do optimized? The answer is, I don't know. Speaking of the placement fees, I've seen some people social media saying, hey, you should do minimal, or you should do optimized, or you should do partial. And when we talk about it, we don't direct people what they should do for the long run because each fee structure and placement is going to differ depending on where you're located in the country, how big your shipment is. Are you sending SPD, FTL, LTL? There's so many variables in there that I can't tell you, hey, minimal for every shipment is the best option. It's a case-by-case scenario.
Yes, but we do show them exactly how to break it down to make that decision. So, I mean, it's important to note that. I remember those calls in early December when we were saying, well, you're going to have to run the numbers. You're going to have to look at your PCPA, your production cost per ASIN, and see how substantial it's going to grow when you have to split the products up when you're preparing them to be packed and then shipped out. We call it straight staging. That's why I did my air quotes. But when you're preparing them to be prepped and then shipped out, right? So that's something you need to consider. Then you also got to consider where it's going to. So you might not even have that decision of whether to do minimal, optimal, or partial until Amazon gives you your choices of where they're sending it to. And if it's being sent to somewhere and you run those quotes of what it's going to cost, where those costs are going to be higher for shipping them than what the placement fees are, it might be better to do placement. But at the end of the day, what we've shown them is you take your placement fees, you take your estimated shipping costs, you put them together, and then you divide by the products you're shipping to know what that additional average cost is going to be. And what we always recommend is to go with the lower average cost if it doesn't substantially increase your labor cost.
Or the time that it will take to get there.
And I think both are the time that it takes to get there
to the fulfillment
and that's
center,
another thing. And so I got to put a caveat there because we also tell them unless it's a seasonal item or something that's running low on stock that you have to have in stock.
Sometimes it's worth it to take that increased fee to get the inventory.
Right. Especially with some of our brand partners. Like we cannot have products going out of stock and them call and say, hey, Sebastian, hey, Eric, I'm looking at one of our best sellers and it's not in stock. Like how poorly would that reflect on us?
Yeah.
So sometimes we do have to take that additional fee to ensure that we're always putting our best foot forward for the brands we work with.
Yeah, and there's one more struggle I'd like to touch on, but before we get into this third struggle, I think one of the biggest changes we made in our business, and we also educated a lot of our community on, was increasing our minimum buying requirements to account for these placement and low inventory level fees.
Yes.
Right? So at the beginning of 2024, minimum requirement was $2.
Right.
You know, we had to increase that to account for these fees, and we've been able to remain profitable because of that increase.
That's right.
You know, but most people, they're just like, hey, my set minimum is my set minimum, and they've been buying like that for years without reviewing their financials and their data.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea.
It's terrible. I mean, at minimal, you need to do a yearly supplier performance.
Preferably 2 to 4 times a year.
We prefer quarterly, but if you're too busy, you're running a smaller business, at least every year review your supplier performance. And the way that you review your supplier performance is you go into whatever repricer, whatever software you use for repricing your products, and you pull all that supplier information for the year. See how much you sold with that supplier, see what the profits were with that supplier, see what the total orders were for that supplier, and then you take your revenue and you divide it by orders. You take your profit and you divide it by orders, and you get the average order profit and the average order sales amount to understand the ROI on the supplier themselves.
Yep. And then you take it one step further, and once you have that data, now you start analyzing the returns from those vendors. Right? And now you can see visually, like, okay, this supplier was phenomenal for us. Average product made us $450. We sold whatever 100,000 units. I want to allocate more money to this supplier in 2025.
Right, and we did a lot of discussion about budget allocation. So I remember when we were telling everyone, hey, you need to look at your minimum threshold right now, that benchmark, and increase it. At the same time, you need to review your suppliers and decide on budget allocation. A supplier that has an ROI of 10% can't have the same budget allocation as someone that has an ROI of 50. It doesn't make sense. Like, same way that an employee who works really well for you should be rewarded with bonuses or a higher salary, well, those suppliers that perform better for you should also have more money rewarded to them, and we should be purchasing more from them.
100%. And so the third struggle that a lot of sellers face, not really us and the bigger guys, but some of the newer, smaller, maybe medium-sized sellers, were brand gating, restrictions, transparency-enabled products that these sellers were just no longer able to sell. So they may have sold these historically for multiple years, and then the pipeline was shut off, or they may even have had inventory in stock and the listing was removed or the listing was restricted.
Or the other option, we were speaking with somebody just this morning where they purchased $40,000 from this brand without knowing that the product is in transparency. And
Rookie mistake.
Always tell our community, before you purchase something, create the listing.
Test listing,
Create the test listing and make sure the listing could be created. So this person went and purchased $40,000 worth, and then they're reaching out to us this morning, emergency, what do I do here? There's nothing you could do. You now have this product, you go to list it, it's transparency enabled. You could have easily found that out by just creating a test listing, and now you're stuck with $40,000.
Which for some businesses, that could be an end-all be-all.
That could be the end.
That could definitely be the end.
I know that in the next 12 months, that is just going to be the catalyst and continue to escalate as far as more products being enrolled in transparency, more brands working exclusively with 1 or 2 sellers. And honestly, what's happening is the Amazon industry is just maturing. It just went from like being like this ravaged teenager where you could just buy and sell products and do whatever, to like now it's more structured and more like a true business or a marketplace is supposed to be.
And honestly, I'm cool with it. Right? Because I think it's created opportunity for people who know how to navigate these changes properly.
100%. I mean, look at us. We've had over 30 brands that we've locked in and have exclusivity with and have these partnerships with because they too understand the opportunity on Amazon. For some of them, it's just simple brand awareness because 50% of people who purchase a product in the store start their search online. And a lot of that is happening on Amazon.
So what are some ways that not only we've implemented, but we've also helped other people implement to kind of combat these low inventory level fees, the placement fees, the product restrictions? Like, what are we doing internally in order to remain profitable in the years to come?
Well, it's a multi-step process, and a lot of that we touched on already. When it comes to the fee structure, the first thing we did was increase our minimums. We increased our minimums to be able to eat up some of those additional fees because they're not going away. There's no way you could pivot or circumvent those fees. They're there. You could reduce them, but you're still going to have more fees this year than you did last year. That's just the new name of the game. So that's the first thing. The next thing you have to do is understand your numbers. So many sellers
have no idea.
They're just like, let me sell products, and as long as I see those orange bars going up, my business has to be profitable. It's like, no, it doesn't. It could mean that your time is being wasted and you're spending a lot more time and you're selling a lot more products, but it does not mean that you're more profitable.
No. I mean, just yesterday I had a call with a brand new Inner Circle member, and I'm asking him the questions we ask every brand new Inner Circle member about their data. Hey, what's your MPPA? What's your PCPA? What's your OPPA? You know, operating profit per ASIN, net profit per ASIN, production cost per ASIN. They didn't know any of them.
And that's like a common theme. Is that not?
It's
a common theme.
It is. And what I told him at the end of that call was, listen, within 30 days of being in Inner Circle, like, you're going to be able to rattle off these numbers immediately, because if you can't, then you're not focused on the growth of your company. And there's something missing there. An important thing missing.
And the most important.
The most important.
The most important thing. If you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business. You have a hobby.
In order to combat the transparency-enabled products, some of the brand restrictions and gating, I know we put a huge focus. You just said it. We got 30 brand directs now for our business, which makes up about 20% of the company. And our strategy moving into the new year is to increase that percentage of brand directs.
50, 60%, and then beyond. And that's cool. It's like, okay, I mean, in 10 years, like, how many changes in the past 10 plus years that we've been selling on Amazon have we seen?
I can't even count them.
The name of the game is pivot. It's pivot or die. So make a decision. Some people are like, no, this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm comfortable with it, so I'm going to continue doing it that way. That's fine. We've seen lots of those sellers, and they're no longer on the marketplace. But that's fine if that's your strategy. For us, it's things change, we pivot. We change. We have to. It's not our own marketplace. Last time I checked, it's not Eric.com. It'd be pretty cool if it was. We wouldn't be sitting here right now. but last time I checked, that's not what it is. It's Amazon.
And you know what's crazy? Most of these people, they will just complain about, hey, my product, I can't sell it, it got enrolled in transparency, instead of trying to get on the other side and start enrolling some products.
Be proactive versus reactive.
Start locking in some brands. Stop complaining that you don't have any brands and your business is declining. It's your fault because you don't have the infrastructure, or you haven't invested in the community to provide you that infrastructure.
It's the same mindset, like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, but I don't want to go to school for it. I just want to do it. Just let me start doing it. No, you can't just start doing Amazon. You can't just start doing a business outside in the real world too. Now the digital world has become exactly aligned with the real world. You can no longer just start and do. You need to have a plan, or you need to work with people who've done it before and show you how to build that infrastructure.
It's the cheat code to life. I mean, the digital age has revolutionized the information we have access to.
And it's a lot cheaper now. I mean, if you look back before the digital age, where you had to get a location, pay for the rent of that location, drive traffic to that location, like physical traffic, bring
put
people
employees there.
Employees to take care of the consumers, all the customers.
POS system. I mean
you're talking about a huge investment was needed. The investment needed today is reduced to a tenth of what it was.
Absolutely.
But there's still an investment there, and the first investment is knowledge. Knowledge and information.
I mean, it's crazy when we analyze some of these bigger sellers, and even the medium-sized sellers we work with, and even the small guys. I mean, average operating expense is between 3 and 8%. That's super low to run an entire business. It's crazy.
It is, and I'm just still stuck on the whole investment of information, because to me it's like, we invest in masterminds, we spend $50,000, $100,000, what have you, to continue to learn.
Yeah.
And when I think about when people go back to school or when they're going to college for the first time,
$250,000.
they're spending six figures,
Yeah.
no problem to get an average salary.
Make
and
$55K.
It's like here you can learn from people that are making millions of dollars for a cost of $20,000. It's like, I don't know, maybe I'll test them. Okay, go test it yourself, but
out.
see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Fuck around and find out.
Yeah. Fuck around and find out. Yeah. But I mean, and we see it over and over again, and it's just sad. It sucks because they don't invest $20,000 or whatever to learn the information, but then they go purchase $40,000 like this morning.
Transparency, protected products.
And then they're like, hey, how do I fix this?
Yeah.
It's like, you can't, bro.
Yeah.
You can't. You fix it by, you should have reached out to us way before this problem happened.
Yeah.
Now you found us online, or you've been following us for years, and now you want to reach
ask
out.
the question.
Yeah. And it's sad. It sucks.
Yeah, it does
because
suck.
that's $40,000 that he's
Gone.
never getting.
No, I mean, maybe he'll liquidate it for 15% of that cost of goods, or maybe he could sell it on some other marketplace and get some profit back. It's going to complicate the process for them.
It could ruin the business.
It could.
It could ruin the business.
It could.
I mean, $40,000 is not chump change.
No, it's not chump change. Man. I mean, some people make that an entire year, working 40, 50-hour weeks.
Yeah. I think now that I got that rant out, I want to touch a little bit about brand partnerships, because we were talking about brand partnerships, and I think it's so important for people to understand the climate of the Amazon space right now and what's to come, and why brand direct brand partnerships are so important in 2025 and why brand direct brand partnerships are so important going forward.
Yeah, for a number of reasons. One, you can literally project what you're going to sell every single month.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're partnering with brands that are established already.
Yes.
So you can understand how much inventory they're selling on a monthly basis,
yes,
which allows you to help better manage your finances,
yes,
and place consistent orders with those brands.
And you know what drives me crazy?
What?
Like when you bring up to certain people, and it's certain people, there's a lot of people that are so gung-ho about it, and I love it, like John, like Mike, right? Mike's crushing it in Canada, and he's bringing it over to US now. What drives me crazy is those people that are like, oh, but I gotta reach out to the brand, I gotta do legwork, it's like, yes, you put the effort up front, but at the end of the day, they've already built all the awareness. That brand has done decades of work probably for you to get to where they are today, and the only thing you have to do is be the service provider on Amazon, which we already provide you the infrastructure for. Like, how simple is that? Instead, what are you gonna do? Build a private label? They're like, oh, I could just build a Good luck. Do you know how difficult that is? First, you're gonna have to find a legitimate factory, right? The success rate is 0.1%. It's so low. You're gonna have to find a legitimate factory. You're gonna have to figure out the logistics, figure out the containers. You're gonna have to figure out the right product. After you figure out the right product, you have this perfect product, you found this perfect factory, you're bringing this product over. Now you have to figure out how to drive traffic. And then if you do drive traffic to that private label listing, you're gonna have competitors from overseas that can get it for 1/3 the cost, that are gonna try to jeopardize your listing. And you don't hear about hijacked listings on name brand products because you're not hijacking that. It's happening on the private label side.
Products.
And so here you have this opportunity where you could partner with a brand. Like, yes, there's a lot of work in the beginning, but after that, it's just rinse, wash, and repeat. You've already optimized these listings. You've built out the infrastructure for this brand, and now it's just reordering. I mean, you're placing some orders, and so am I, 50, 60,000 in 5-10 minutes with Source Correct, because there are brand partnerships. We don't even have to look at the charts. It's just look at the velocity and reorder. Click a couple buttons.
It's so easy. Another huge benefit of Brand Direct is guaranteed profits.
Guaranteed.
Right?
I
Because
know
you
exactly
know what the
numbers.
revenue is, you know what the margins are, and now you just extrapolate that over multiple months or an entire year, and you can figure out how much money you're going to make immediately.
Right. How much easier is it to build out your team, to project the next space if you're thinking about moving into a space, if you already have the numbers? It's no more of a guessing game. It's no more like, hey, how many employees am I gonna need? No, I know what shipments are coming in this month because I know what POs I have to place because I'm working with certain brands. So the more we continue to pivot into that brand partnership, brand direct service, sort of like a brand agency actually, the more we're going to understand the numbers that are coming and being able to forecast them.
Yeah, and the trajectory of most sellers who start on Amazon, I mean, typically you see a video on social media, you start doing arbitrage, then maybe 6 to 9 months goes by, you break into wholesale. And a huge nugget that I want to share with everybody is what we use our wholesale supplier relationships for is leveraging future brand directs, right? Because you're already buying these products from these wholesalers. Right. You know how these products move. You have the internal data. Now you just need to contact the brand and pitch them this exclusivity deal.
Well, not everyone has that data because they haven't got haven't invested in information. So not everyone has that. Some people just watch the YouTube videos or go on social media and see the dude with the Lambo. Nothing wrong with that. The problem, I don't care whether you're in a Lambo or a Nissan, I care about what information are you providing? Are you breaking down the resources? Are you giving them legit information so they could succeed? Or are you just spoon feeding them bullshit so that they purchase something from you?
And the sad thing is 98% of these people are spoon feeding bullshit.
Yeah, I mean that's where they make the money.
Yeah.
They make the money off that. They're not like us who do, this year we did about 6.8 million in gross profit from this business. And then we show people how you could replicate it.
Yeah.
This exact style of business. And you don't have to have 30 brands like we do. You could have one brand doing $150,000 a month in sales at 15% or 20% gross profit. That's between 20 to 30,000 a month. You're telling me 250,000 a year is not going to change your life off one brand?
Sign me up.
Right? So do the legwork, put it in the next 90 days, everything could change for you. And that's why brand direct, brand partnership is so important. As a matter of fact, just think about the last call we had with our inner circle members and where we broke down the schedule over the next 12 months and what's to come.
It's an absolute game changer. We're kicking off the year in January with our inner circle workshop where we're going to help them lock in brand directs for the first trade show we're all going to go to together in March.
Yeah. And it's so cool because we built it out so it's sequential.
Yeah.
Throughout the year, every single workshop, every single mastermind that we have feeds off the previous one, so it continues to integrate them and really teach them as they invest in themselves, they invest in their business, and they grow and scale. And at the end of the day, if they don't have a few brands locked down, I feel like we didn't succeed, and I know you feel the same way. I mean, just think about what we're gonna do here in March. We're gonna have them come to this warehouse.
Place,
to our warehouse, because we're going to show them exactly the equipment that we use, exactly our operations, and prepare them to build their own infrastructure or make any necessary changes. And then the next day, we're all going to go to a trade show, the toy show in New York City, where they're going to be meeting with brands where they've already set appointments for. And why did they set appointments? Because the month before, we showed them step by step how to build out a pitch deck the way that we do when we close a brand. So they're going to be able to have these pitch decks prepared, reach out to these brands for the toy show, set up the meetings, and there's going to be other shows that we're going to be going to throughout the year, and just rinse, wash, and repeat that and succeed. That's what it's about. They'll be properly prepared, like John was at Sweets and Snacks when we went, and he was able to lock in brands. He had a whole schedule set up, a whole itinerary of who he's going to speak to, what he's going to speak to them about, and how he's going to sell them.
And now he has 3 brand directs. Literally less than 6 months later.
From 0 to 3.
It's life-changing.
And the last 3 happened in 90 days. So, I mean, it's just growing.
And the coolest part is, right, so now you've been able to, not only come to our warehouse, but also have the strategy to lock in some brands, right? Have the ability to put together your pitch deck, know what trade shows to go to meet these brands, but now you have a brand. How are you going to grow them?
Well, that's the next stage for us. That's the second half of the year. That's what we're focusing on, longevity, because we have brands we've worked with for 3-4 years.
Some more.
So it's important to understand what value you need to bring, and that's the whole value ladder that we provide them. It's like, okay, month 1, quarter 1, this is what you provide. Going forward, this is what they expect. And so you're growing this long-term relationship with them, and at the end of the day, if you structure your value ladder correctly, it'll be like us, where brands are coming to us because of referrals from other brands.
And then you just have this repeat cycle of brand after brand after brand, and you could come to a place where you even have to start turning down brands, or like us, giving them to other inner circle members.
Right, the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Right, so we're taking what we could work with, and then we're giving the others away. Doesn't mean that they don't meet our requirements, just means that at this point, it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Right.
Either we don't have the cash flow or the labor to support the listing creations and the edits, but it's too much, like you said.
And honestly, I think part of it is where we are in life.
Yeah.
If we were just starting this right now, like we would take the 50, 60 that reached out, but I'm good. You know, we have our family. You're about to have your first kid. I have my kids. I want to spend time. Like back in the day, it was all about the grind for us. Now it's more of a blend of lifestyle and business. Yeah. And I'm happy. I know you are with where we are. So
I'm super happy.
Yeah.
My life has never been more full than it is today.
Right.
And when I say full, I just don't mean full like my schedule. I mean full like my soul feels whole. You know, obviously not all the time. I'm fucking human, right? But for a majority of the time, which I could have never said prior, is my life feels full and whole, and it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah,
it's amazing, man. So another cool part of Inner Circle is the direct one-on-one support. So when you do lock in that brand, and they got all these questions: who's setting up brand registry, and what email should I use, and how do I connect it to my store? Which literally every Inner Circle member deals with these struggles. It's like, we got you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Right now I'm smiling because you just said that, and I'm thinking about literally 2 nights ago, 11 o'clock at night, I'm on the phone with Joe, and he was asking me those exact same things. Hey, I'm having a problem with the OPR. How do I set up the OPR? Hey, I'm having an issue. I don't understand this in transparency. How do I connect transparency to brand registry to my seller account? And I literally walked him step by step through it. And I know you've done it for countless others too.
Yeah, and what's crazy is if you were to Google those questions, you cannot find an answer.
You're not finding
it. You can use ChatGPT, still can't find an answer.
No one's posting that on YouTube.
Nobody's talking about it. Only people like me and you know how to optimize that process.
Yeah, or people that have actually gone through it.
Yeah.
That people who've gone through it, have the experience, and are going through it.
Yeah.
It's cool to talk a good game until shit hits the fan. Then you know who really understands the business and who's just flaunting something they don't have.
Yeah. And one more thing I'd like to touch on, and I don't think we talked about it at all in this video, is source correct, man. Because that's a huge, huge benefit to being part of the community, is source correct, right? It helps you whip up purchase orders quickly. It's an advanced UPC scraper. It allows multiple buyers to work on multiple orders at the same time. You can compare supplier pricing, so your buyers can now communicate and get the lowest cost from the best supplier. You can pin suppliers against each other. Hey, I'm getting it 20% cheaper from supplier A. Can you do it 20% cheaper? I mean, it's an absolute game changer software. The first all-in-one.
Well, once again, it's always about us providing value. Like, same thing that we do for brands, but I think even on a higher scale, what we do for our members is every year we want to provide more. So I think it was 2 years ago we decided to take our own software
and give it to them.
Yeah. So they can integrate it. Yeah. Because for the longest time, we realized that our buyers were scouring through Google Sheets, transcribing information from one Google Sheet to another Google Sheet, having this master database Google Sheet, and it was a waste of time. We had 10 buyers, and now we could do the same with 3. Yeah. And our buyers are smarter. They make smarter decisions because they're not transcribing. Only thing they have to do is look at the data. Yeah. And when only thing you have to do is look at the data over and over again, it makes it so much easier to buy.
Yeah. Those Excel days back in the day, man, were a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's transcribing data.
Everything was a Google sheet.
Probably 40% of our time was spent importing data.
Yeah, everything was Google Sheet. And forget about, like, if you're about to purchase a product and you want to see if it's been purchased recently.
Oh my God, you got to search in the Google Drive, compare 20 different files. That's right. I mean, it was a nightmare.
Yes.
It was a nightmare. Thank God we don't have to deal with that anymore. And also, there's a lot of sellers that don't have to deal with that anymore because they're using Source Correct.
No, our Inner Circle community loves Source Correct.
They love it, man.
They love it. I mean, it really complements everything we teach. It's like, okay, we're giving you the information, but now we're also giving you the tools. Yeah. And then they blend together to make sure you have a superior infrastructure when it comes to your competition.
Life changer.
Yeah. And it has been for many.
Yeah.
From when you were talking about John going from 100,000 to $1 million, or Adam being able to purchase 1.3 million a month by himself. Like you couldn't do that with Excel or Google Sheets.
You would need 5 to 7 people.
Yeah, it's not that Adam became a better buyer. It's he had the tools, the resources, and the information to be able to do that.
Yeah, and now he's crushing.
He's crushing.
So at the end of the day, we still operate a hybrid model, right?
Yeah.
Where a majority of our business is wholesale, and then a smaller percentage is brand direct. And our goal over the next few years is to increase the percentage of brand direct. Doesn't mean we're stepping away from wholesale, but our strategy has changed. Yeah. We are now not so revenue focused, but more profit focused. So over the next 12 months, we're cool losing 10 to $15 million in revenue because we know our profits will be higher.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to focus, and I just want our inner circle members to focus on bottom line. What is your profit?
Yeah.
Maybe you're somebody that's not there yet. Like, we got some younger members in our community that are like, I just want to grind out, and that's cool. But if you're somebody that's looking to do as little as possible, but make as much as possible, then follow the trail. Because like, we've built it out and we continue to. This year, we've done the same numbers as last year, maybe a little bit less in revenue, but profits were substantially higher. Yeah. Even with all the challenges we talked about at the beginning of this, it's still higher profits because we changed the model, we've changed the way we do things. Yeah. And the only thing that separates a lot of people from where we are is access to the information. Like, we've been through it, we've learned from others, we've paid for those masterminds and workshops, so we are where we are today. And a lot of people out there who may be watching this are like, damn, I wish I could be there. It's like, you could.
You can.
You invest, and we put in our time into you so you could have the information, the knowledge, and get to exactly where we are. Exactly. Just be a clone. Or better yet, we always strive for them to be even better than us, to be even making more than us. And there are inner circle members that are making more than we are now, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, they joined the first year, and now we're going into the 4th year, and we've seen their growth, and they continue to grow. They continue to grow.
I mean, we got some inner circle members doing $7 million months.
Yes.
I mean, $7 million a month, and when they joined, they were not even breaking $1 million.
That's right. That's like
crazy.
700,000.
So 3-4 years. I mean,
10x.
Yeah, it's crazy.
10x, 10x. And the opportunity is there. At the end of the day, the opportunity is there. But my biggest fear is that Amazon and online in general is changing so rapidly that if you're unwilling to invest, you're going to fall behind. You're going to be just like those sellers that we saw 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that are obsolete. They're no longer there. And the same thing will happen to them in 12 months if they're not willing to pivot and to make the necessary changes.
100%, man. Those shares suck.